Welcome back to our series, Playing the Hand, the math behind every street. In part 1, we focused on the two most common flop outcomes in poker, no pair hands and one pair hands. If you missed that video, the link is in the description below. In this second installment, we're moving into one of the strongest made hands in No Limit Holdem, flopped sets. Flopping a set feels like the dream scenario, and in many ways, it is. Sets win massive pots, they're extremely well hidden, and against most ranges, they're statistically far ahead. But the strength of the hand does not eliminate the need for correct mathematical decisions. In fact, sets create some of the most important pot odds, hand odds, and multi-way considerations you'll face at the table. In this video, we'll break down what actually happens mathematically when you flop a set, how these hands perform from flop to river, and the strategic principles that must guide your decisions one street at a time. Let's get started. I said this in part 1, but I think it bears repeating for clarity's sake. In poker, you only make mathematical decisions one street at a time, not two cards at once. Not maybe I'll hit by the river or I'll call here and see another card. Every decision for the turn and river must be made using one card hand odds and the current pot odds, nothing else. When the flop hits, the only question is whether the cost of seeing the turn is mathematically justified. You are not deciding the flop and turn together. And when the turn comes, you're deciding the river, nothing more. This is where a lot of players get it wrong. They use the two-card percentages they've memorized from charts or heard on TV, and it makes weak situations look far stronger than they are. A draw that's 35% by the river is nowhere near 35% for the next single card. Two overcards that are 24% by the river are nowhere near 24% for the turn decision. And when you use the wrong math, you end up calling in spots where the numbers simply do not justify it. But there's another side to this that matters just as much. Even though proper pot odds and hand odds calculations are done one street at a time, your strategy should always extend well beyond the next card. Before you call a single bet, you should already know what your plan is if you hit, what your plan is if you miss, how your opponent's range interacts with future turn and river cards, whether future cards help you or help them, and whether the hand has room for implied odds or the danger of reverse implied odds. Good players use correct one-card math. Great players use correct one-card math inside a full multi-street plan. When you combine the simplicity of one-street decisions with the discipline of thinking through the entire hand, the game becomes dramatically clearer, and your decisions become much harder for opponents to exploit. Before we break down the actual hands, I want to make one thing clear. In the example used in this video, we're evaluating the decision strictly through the lens of math, hand odds, pot odds, and nothing else. Poker is situational. In a real game, there are dozens of factors that can influence your decision. Table image, player tendencies, aggression levels, stack sizes, dynamics, live reads, and past history. But because none of that information is available here, we're isolating the math to demonstrate what the correct play would be in a vacuum. This isn't about outplaying someone, bluffing them off a hand, or constructing multi-street lines. This is about baseline profitability. Once you understand the math, then you can decide when to adjust. But the foundation never changes. If the math doesn't justify the call is a losing play, no matter how good it feels. With that in place, let's look at the math behind flopping a set. You're holding pocket nines from under the gun +1. A late position player raised to $20 pre-flop, got 4 callers, and there's $100 in the middle. The flop comes the ace of diamonds, the 10 of spades, and the 9 of spades in a 5-way pot. You've flopped middle set on one of the most dangerous board textures you can imagine. Top card on the board is an ace. 10 and 9 giving multiple straight possibilities. 2 spades on board, providing a front door flush draw. And the pot is multi-way, a total of 5 players. So yes, we have a very strong hand, but it is absolutely not a spot for slow playing. Let's think it through. In a 5-way pot on this flop, we fully expect to be up against at least one ace-x hand, at least one flush draw, a Broadway straight draw like king-queen, queen-jack, or even the 7-8 of spades or queen-jack of spades for a straight, flush and straight flush draw, plus all the possible 2-pair combinations. Set over set, 10s or aces, is possible but rare. Most of the time, our set of 9s is well ahead, while also surrounded by hands that have real equity. The under-the-gun player checks, and it's on us. Our goals are, charge draws heavily, thin the field, start building a pot that reflects the strength of our hand. So into this $100 pot, we bet $80. That size is important. Watch what it does to the math for everyone else. The first caller is calling $80 to win the $180 that's out there before his call. That means he is getting 2.25 to 1 pot odds. If he calls, The second player is now calling $80 to win $260 or 3.25 to 1. A third caller would be getting 4.25 to 1. But in most live games, you don't often see three people flat calling a big bet on a board this scary. What this means is simple. The first two callers are almost always calling incorrectly, no matter what draw they're drawing to. And that's exactly what you want when you're out front. Big pot, bad calls. Side note, the exception is the Queen Jack of Spades and the 7-8 of Spades, as they both have a straight, a flush, and a straight flush draw, giving them 15 outs or 2.13 to 1 odds to hit their hand on the turn. But there's another key piece we have to account for. Even though we're ahead, we can still improve. On this flop, we have 7 cards in the deck that give us a full house or quads on the turn, 3 remaining 10s, 3 aces, and 1 9. That's 7 outs, which is 5.71 to 1 against improving on the very next card. If we miss on the turn, that's not the end of the story either. After the turn is dealt, we now have 10 outs to a full house on the river. 3 10s, 3 aces, 1 9, plus 3 cards that can pair the turn card. 10 outs is 3.6 to 1 against. So our chance to improve actually goes up. Now let's move to the turn. We got 2 callers plus our bet of $80, and the pot is now $340. The turn comes to 3 of diamonds. This is a fantastic card for us. It does not complete the flush or straight. It does not change the top pair situation. If our opponents were on a flush draw, straight draw, or the combo draw, their hand probabilities didn't measurably improve. But our full house outs increased from 7 to 10. At this point, we simplify the picture. Realistically, the 2 remaining players either have an ace they're trying to take to showdown, a strong draw that bricked the turn, or occasionally, a set that has us beat. With that in mind, and with $340 in the pot, we bet $250 going to the river. Why $250? Because it does 4 things at once. 1. It keeps maximum pressure on all draws. 2. It forces top pair hands to make a real decision. 3. It builds the pot for when we do fill up. 4. It denies cheap equity in a spot where our hand is still likely best. Now look at the pot odds we're offering. Player 1 is calling $250 to win the $590 that's out there before his call. That's about 2.36 to 1. If he calls, player 2 is calling $250 to win $840. That's about 3.36 to 1. If they are calling on the flush draw, then they are 4.11 to 1 to complete on the river, and the straight draw is 4.75 to 1 to complete. In both cases, they are still calling incorrectly. Remember, we also have 10 outs to make a full house, which puts us at 3.6 to 1. The combo draw, with its 15 outs, is 2.07 to 1 to complete. The key lesson from this hand isn't just bet your sets. It's recognize how many players you're up against. Understand how much equity the draws really have. Know your own improvement chances to a full house. And size your bets so that, on every street, your opponents are walking into mathematically bad calls while you're pushing a strong, improving hand as hard as the board allows. Before we wrap up, we need to clear up one of the biggest misunderstandings players have about sets, how strong they really are, and where the true danger actually lies. The math on the surface can be misleading. A typical flush draw will complete by the river about 35% of the time, while a flop set will improve to a full house or quads roughly 33% of the time. Those percentages look similar, but strategically, they could not be more different. A set is already a made hand. A draw is not. When you flop a set, you begin the hand ahead of most of your opponent's ranges, and in most cases, you don't need to improve for your hand to remain good all the way to showdown. If the board pairs and you make a full house, that's a bonus, sometimes necessary, but usually just additional win percentage on top of an already strong position. Draws live in the opposite world. A player with a flush or straight draw starts behind and must improve to win. If the draw never hits, the final board exposes everything. Everyone at the table instantly knows whether the flush arrived or whether that straight card ever materialized. Your set, by comparison, remains hidden from start to finish. That hidden strength is what makes sets so dangerous to play against and so profitable to play well. A set doesn't announce itself on the board the way a flush or straight does. Your opponents don't see anything obvious they can react to. You can bet, check, or call, and your hand is still invisible to most players, especially the ones who aren't paying close attention. Meanwhile, they're focused on the things everyone fears: the third heart, the fourth straight card, the paired board. They're not thinking about the monster you're actually holding. But even with all that said, the real danger with sets doesn't come from draws. Mathematically, a set is almost always favored over a flush draw or straight draw and will stay ahead most of the time. The real trap is set over set. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, the smaller set is usually willing to go broke without hesitation, and the bigger set has you crushed with no escape. Deep stacks only magnify the damage. Fortunately, if you're paying attention, the betting line can sometimes warn you when something is off. On dry flops, boards that don't offer many reasonable draws, a massive check raise, an oversized turn bet, or relentless pressure across all three streets can be a clue that your bottom or middle set might not actually be the best hand. It isn't a guarantee, but it's a signal that deserves your attention. So here's the truth about sets. Put simply, they are one of the strongest and most profitable hands you can make in no-limit Holdem. They start ahead. They stay ahead more often than not, and their hidden strength forces opponents into expensive mistakes. They don't usually need to improve, but you still have to read the board and the betting with discipline. A set isn't invincible, but played correctly, it is absolutely one of the long-term profit engines in your game. If I had the choice, I would always take the set over the straight draw or the flush draw. Every time. The math and playability support it. In our third edition of this series, we'll look at the math behind straight draws, flush draws, and the massive equity of combo draws. If you found value in this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm Terry Wood from PokerRailbird.com. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you at the tables.